Welcome back to the 2019 edition of RTH Gaming's 50 Favorite Games Countdown.
We're going to be going from 40 to 31.
For RTH Gaming, I'm Chip.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Lucas, and I'll go ahead and get us started. This segment of my list is half new to the list.
Oh, wow.
Whereas the last segment had a bunch of stuff that dropped. So this is where a bunch of new stuff landed. The first one, however, is not new stuff, but it has fallen 15 spaces. My number 40 is Imperial Assault. And I'm thinking it's falling because we haven't played it in a while. And it hadn't got to the table. You know, it's one of these big campaign-based dungeon crawls, so getting it there makes it difficult. But I do really enjoy this. And like everything else that's popular that Fantasy Flight puts out, there's a ton of things you can get to add to it to, you know, have more characters, have more locations, have more enemies. But I think the only thing they've put out I'm not really a big fan of is the app.
Okay.
Because I really like the Dungeon Master feel of the Imperial player versus the Rebel players.
Yeah.
I enjoy that dynamic. And I understand folks that want to have something so they don't have to have that so that everybody can play, but I feel as rewarded playing as the Imperial player as a normal character. But anyways, my number 40, Imperial Assault.
I love that one. It's a super game. I particularly like the fact that, you know, it jumps around all over the Star Wars universe. So you can be part of Jabba's palace or, you know, on the Force of Endor. So great game.
Yeah. It's a dungeon crawl, so I'm going to be a big fan of it as well. Now, the app integration, I get what you say. It kind of takes out the Dungeon Master if you like to play that way. But one of the benefits, I think, that come with that is you get they're releasing new content through the app. And I think even if you're playing with the living Dungeon Master, I think those new missions and stuff still show up for you. You know, to use the content and all that pretext and things like that. So yeah, it is. It's a shame we haven't really gotten it to the table lately.
Yeah, we need to start up another run of it.
Campaign.
Yeah, we do. Well, for me, number 40 was Rattus Cardus. Little card game. It's a card game based off of Rattus, the board game, which I have, thanks to Chip, but we haven't got it to the table yet. But Rattus Cardus is basically you're trying to gain influence in all these different groups within your town, be it the knights or royalty or the witches. And it's a bluffing game. You're bidding on how much influence you're going to get. And say you bid 4, but only 3 are actually members of royalty, and one of them was a peasant. Well, you still get 4 points, but you also get rats. Because at the end of the game, if you have more rats than nuns, you die of the plague. So it's a lot of fun in a little card game, and that's Rattus Cardus.
It is a cool game of bluffing. And then, but you get into this vicious cycle where you're just trying to reach out and get it. You're chasing the dragon or chasing whatever to try to get those extra influences. And man, you just kill yourself with rats.
You do, literally.
So this explains why you wanted to play this game last weekend. But I learned 2 things there. One, I don't particularly like it at 2 players. I think it needs more people.
You need it. You need it.
And the second one, the best part about this game is the tension of, do I have so many rats that at the end of the game, I'm just going to die whether I want or not? Because if you have more rats than there are nuns to treat them, you lose no matter what your final score was. And I like that tension, right? Because certain things as you go along will allow you to peek at the 6 nun cards out there. But I've never been able to see them all, so you've never got the full picture of what you're going to face at the end. So.
And I mean, I'm not trying to date you guys, but really and truly, if you've been married over 10 years, you probably don't need to be playing bluffing games with each other because you kind of figured out each other's tells, right? So, my number 40, again, like I said, I'm a huge fan of the dungeon crawls. Is going to be Space Hulk. This is an old classic by Games Workshop. Where you play it's a 2-player. One side plays a group of Space Marine Terminators running through a spaceship trying to cleanse it of the gene stealer alien infestation that is inside the ship. And so we got introduced to this one a long, long time ago. In fact, this may have been, other than Dungeons and Dragons, this may have been our first board game dungeon crawl that we were ever exposed to.
Probably.
And just really, you know, it's a lot of nostalgia. But it's a dungeon crawl, and it's on my list. I have been painting a little bit of the new 3rd edition set, and so I think I'm kind of wanting to get it to the table. We'll have to get it out. It plays quick. It's unlike other dungeon crawls. They never really put a lot of campaign into Space Hulk. It was more play one mission and just kind of have fun. And so if you're looking for a dungeon crawl feel game that doesn't really have the commitment of something like Descent or Imperial Assault, then Space Hulk's probably and you like sci-fi, Marines versus aliens. It's probably a good pick for you.
That's one that I still have not played.
You have not yet? Oh,
no.
We'll get it to the table.
Okay, promise.
And that's going to be our number 40.
So here at 39, my pick was Champions of Midgard. A little dice worker placement game, but your workers are dice. You roll them up, and that's how you go and battle. I love this game because there's so many different things you can do. You can go and fight trolls, or you can go to go out on missions across the Great Sea if you survive the trip. There's just so much Viking-y goodness in that one, and that is Champions of Midgard.
Yeah, I agree. You send your workers out to do the things you do, and that gives you a pile of dice that are your warriors, like she said, and then you can put them on a longboat and send them across the sea to fight these big monsters. However, they may encounter bad things before they get there, but you've also got to send food with them because evidently Vikings starve to death if you don't feed them.
They do.
But the cool thing is, so you load up your boat, you make sure you've got enough food so that nobody starves to death. You get there, and then you flip over the hazard card right before you go to fight the big sea dragon thing or whatever, and your boat capsized or whatever, right? So
monsoon.
It adds a little bit of uncertainty that would have been there for, a seafaring, invading a group of people. So, yeah, like she said, you go around, you fight the different things. You fight the troll, you fight the crazy evil dwarves or whatever they are. But it's all a set collection deal because each one of the cards that represents the enemies is a different color. And you're trying to gather points through getting sets of these enemies that you've defeated, and that cranks up your score. I feel like it has if you take out like 878 Vikings, right, which is a historically based, Vikings invading Britain thing. This is, to me, the best game I've played that's Viking-y, that feels like you're doing Viking things, right? So that's why I like it. I enjoy that one too.
Vikings are people too. My number 39 is going to be a crossover with Jolene from our last list, and that is Mission Red Planet, the second edition.
Space game.
Yeah, this one is just really fun. It's a quick little game. I guess area control, but then it's not programmed movement, action selection, which is really neat, and it's got almost a cartoony Martian feel to it, right? The art and the graphic design, and I can appreciate that. So it's got a little bit of take that, not really take that, but just kind of for one card I can be a butthole to you about blowing up your ship that you wanted to send to Mars. But it's a neat implementation. I enjoy it. You're trying to colonize or take over regions of Mars to gain points and secure areas that'll give you more points in the end. So a neat little game, Mission Red Planet.
And I really like the action selection because, you're choosing, do I want to put my little astronauts in the rocket, or do I want to blow up his rocket, or do I want to send it to a completely different spot than what he intended to go? And, you can't get your cards back until there's this one particular card which allows you to gather them back. So, you have to think ahead. Do I want to go ahead and send that ship or just wait a little bit longer? So it's really fun. I like that one.
Yep, I like that one too. My number 39 is Smiths of Winterforge. This is a new one we got this year. We backed the Kickstarter. And basically, you're a dwarven smith making different items and getting victory points and doing all those nice Euro-y things. The interesting part about this one is there's a movement section in the middle that is where you go to the different areas in Winterforge to do your business, whether it be get orders or whatnot. And each turn, you've got 2 actions, if I remember right, which means effectively you could move anywhere because it's, within 2 spaces, but you kind of want to set that up so you can maximize your turn and get the most benefit. And then you'll get, if you're playing with enough people, there's a bonus at one of the places if you can get there early enough to do that. All of them work together really well. This is what I would categorize as the classic type of Euro that I like. You go and gather things to create something and score points off of it. And that mechanic really works well with me. And it fits with the at least visual theme of this game, of the dwarves making the various items. Yep. So I enjoy Smiths of Winterforge.
The production values in that game is great, too. The board is beautiful, and all the little bits and pieces just make it, epic looking. So, good game.
Yeah, cool. That'll be our number 39. At our number 38, this is a game that I'm pretty sure Lucas and Jolene don't like too much, but I am a sucker for civilization games. So this one is going to be Through the Ages, A Story of Civilization.
Oh, man.
This is a really great game, but it's long.
Yeah.
And the more players that you add a significant amount of time to this.
Yes.
But for me, it does give me the feeling of building a civilization and trying to manage resources versus foodstuff, supplies, and then building out the different sections of civilization. It's mostly card tableau building, and like I said, for me, it really gives me the feel of civilization. With that said, again, not a quick game. I think we played it with 3, and it took us about 4 hours. So it's an investment.
And that number didn't get less, right? So you couldn't blame it on a learning game. We played it many times.
Yeah, that's great.
It always took that long.
Yeah. Now there is an app out now. The game has been apped or created for mobile devices. I haven't tried that because, frankly, I don't have anybody that would play it with me. I guess I could download it and just play some random person on the internet, but I typically don't do that too much. But I enjoy it. I would say my suggestion to the mass public is if you have not played it before and you have an interest, look for a convention that you can find it at. And what would be really helpful is to approach it with somebody that knew how to play it.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they're probably going to beat you because they know how to play it, but at least they can help you with the rules instead of the whole table trying to figure out, how to play it. But Through the Ages, A Story of Civilization, we played the new version. It's what we know, and I really enjoyed it.
It's very an intense civ builder. I mean, it's not like
like head down kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is prone to AP, but if you want something that gets into the the guts of a civ builder, that would be the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree there. It is prone to AP, but I don't think it does that while not being overly complicated, right? I think you understand the decision you're trying to make there while you're APing about it. A couple of things here. If it plays on the app like Lords of Water did, where I can take my turn when I take my turn, I would try it because I've heard that for a lot of people, the app just replaced the game because of how much faster it moved. And it's a direct implementation as I understand it. But the other one there is I was reading about this game because there is a brilliant game in here. I will admit that all day long. It just takes all day long. A lot of people prefer this at 2 players. And that lets it move at the clip that they like it to and what have you. But, if you're willing to invest, 4 or so hours into a 3 or 4 player Civ builder, this one's a recommended. I see the great game in there. Okay, we're on 38?
Yes.
All right, so my number 38, he went all heavy. I'm not at all. Is Brewster's Millions, the board game. And that's Last Will. So if you've seen Brewster's Millions, you know exactly what this game is about. Your uncle died. You have a pile of money that you need to get rid of so that you can claim the larger pile of money at the end. So you do all kinds of ridiculous things, like take your horse to dinner and, what have you, just to try to blow that money. You buy real estate at high prices and sell it low. Anything you can to lose money. And ironically enough, the person with the least money at the end of the game is the winner. So I really like that. There's I don't know if it's an expansion or a standalone called Getting Sacked, but you're trying to, as I understand it, like blow money on an election, just like they did in Brewster's Millions, and lose as many friends as you can at the same time, right? So
vote none of the above.
I really enjoy this. It's theme is similar to a movie that I loved when I was a kid, and it's just a lot of fun. How can I lose money in the most ridiculous way this turn? And that's an easy, light, fun play for me. So, number 38, Last Will.
is a crazy way of one-upmanship.
Right.
Oh, so you're taking your horse to lunch? Okay, well, beat this. It's lighthearted and fun. Yeah, it's a good one. Well, for mine, okay, bear with me on the pronunciation here.
Oh my.
Oaxaca.
Oaxaca.
Crafts of a Culture. Mm-hmm. This is one that we got off of Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. And it's just a little card and dice game, but I fell in love with it. Basically, you're in a village and you're creating jewelry, right? And the decisions you have to make on when you use your dice and when you can use these little special powers that you have in order to make the best combination of jewelry or pottery or, it's handcrafted stuff. And it was just very charming the whole way around. And I got pulled into it. My oldest boy, it piqued his interest too. And so after I played it a couple of times, I then taught it to him. And boy, he whooped me so hard. But that just made me so proud because, he wanted to be a part of that. And it's a really good game. And that is, say it again? Oaxaca.
I understand it's a really analytical game.
It is. It's essentially an engine builder. Yeah. And you should have seen the mama bear look on her face when he figured out that engine and just wore her out. Right? I mean, it was great.
I was so proud.
And that's going to be our number 38. And back with number 37, it's a crossover from Chip's last list, and that is Tokaido. Oh. If you didn't see that video, first of all, check it out. But if you did, you know that Tokaido is basically you're taking a vacation through Japan, and you're stopping at the end, you're eating, you're picking up souvenirs, you're painting landscapes. Mm-hmm. It is an unbelievably relaxing game, one that I didn't think would particularly go over well with our group because nobody gets stabbed, you don't light anything on fire, any of that sort of stuff. You just have this nice, relaxing time, and after it was over, they all seemed to really enjoy it. So I'm really pleased about that, and I really like Tokaido.
And what was really cool is even though we had 5 players, the game didn't drag. It was just, a relaxing stroll. It was nice.
Yeah, it's a hopscotch kind of game, and whoever's in the back keeps going until they're not in the back. It has a real zen feeling, but there is kind of some player antagonization.
Well, there's blocking.
There's blocking, right? Some of the spaces, if you're going after painting a certain triptych, they can start blocking you and really mess up your strategy or whatever. But like you said, even if the game's just not going your way, you don't really feel bad about it.
You don't really care. Right?
Yeah, you're just kind of like, all right, yeah, that's cool, man.
And you can always make the choice to jump ahead, and then let them catch up. It's all good.
Yeah, it's a neat game.
Well, for me, I think this was a crossover too from previous, but I picked just one.
Oh, we have another.
Look at that.
What do you call it? Yeah.
Fireworks.
Pretty cool. Yeah, it's my 37 as well.
Just one. It's a party game, and it up to 8 people, I believe it can do. But basically, you are trying to guess the secret word and they're giving you one word clues. Mm-hmm. And if a clue matches, then those get taken away. So then your pool of clarifiers, gets smaller and smaller. It tightens in, but it's super fun. Mm-hmm. I'm not real big on party games, but this one was fun for everybody. Yeah. So try it out.
What's fun about it is you'll have, you could be playing with 5 people and none of them match. So all 5 answers 4 answers, I guess, if you're playing with 5. 4 answers are on the table, trying to get you to say this one word. Mm-hmm. And to those other 4 players, they're like, come on, it's got to be obvious, and you're looking at it going, no, jelly beans, and what are you talking about? It's a really, really cool game. Really enjoyed it.
Go ahead.
Just to say, just one. That's our number 37. So 36, I fell in love with this series of games but this one in particular is the one that's my favorite, and that's 1812, The Invasion of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason I really like this one by Academy is the 5th player. Because, with the other games, you could do up to 4, and it was, team versus team. But with this one, it adds this rogue 5th player element of the Native Americans. And it just opened this game up so much more for me. And so that one's my favorite, 1812, The Invasion of Canada.
It's a really great one. This is from Academy. It's and to me, it's real thematic because it's playing with cubes to represent your forces. The map, to me, is just stunning. It's the artwork is really a kind of an old-timey representation to me. It makes me feel like, you were a commander back in those days and you've got this map on your table. And you've got wooden cubes. You're moving your units around. I agree with you. The addition, it really fits our group, right? Because we're a 5-player group most of the time. So we always hate to have somebody that has to sit out or play like that. Really, really cool game.
It's not my favorite of the series, but there's not a bad game in this series.
No.
And there are games, and we'll get to some of them as we go along, that play 2 to 4 because you can split a side up and, kind of play teams, but they're really 2-player games. And you could play these games that way if you wanted to, but they are designed to actually be team games where you have your set of responsibilities and the other player on your team has their set of responsibilities, and it's designed to be like that, and it works really well. The whole Birth of America series from Academy, for me, is a big hit, so check that out.
My number 36 is going to be a game that was a gift from my lovely friends, Lucas and Jolynn. It is Carson City, the Big Box. This game is really cool. It's a Western theme, building the city of Carson City and the surrounding areas, ranches and mines, and then the downtown area, while also having an action selection kind of pathway up top of things that you want to try to accomplish. Really neat. One of the interesting mechanics to me is the way that the buildings that you place can actually evolve over time and start generating more and more income for you. So as you place it, it's in one position. Then as you qualify to evolve it, you twist the marker by 90 degrees, and now it represents a more profitable business. And I thought that was a really neat mechanic. I don't think I've ever played any game, or maybe too many games, with that sort of mechanic into of an evolving piece once it's on the table. Pretty neat.
And there are a ton of expansions already for this. And that's one that I want to get to the table again just to test out those expansions. I want to see the bandits come into play.
Yep. One interesting thing is that it's set up for the classic Euro player that doesn't like randomness. You can draw the results of your gunfights. You not draw. You have a beginning set of results for your
you choose
gunfight.
value.
You choose which one you want to use and lose. Or if you are a more random player on the Ameritrash side, you could use dice for the gunfight. So really neat thinking on the part of the developers.
Yeah, I'm with her. I said during the Prelude episode about another Western game we were talking about that I desperately wanted there to be a great Western game and that I hadn't found it yet. And I was thinking just the other day that Carson City is the closest I've come. Yeah. And I want to throw all those expansions in there and see if maybe that puts it over the edge of beating that game. Because I did enjoy the game we played. I just, you've got the big box version. Let's put it all in there and see what it becomes. So.
Agreed.
My number 36 is Railroad Revolution. We talked about railroad games earlier, and when I talked about Colbert and the Great Card Game and how normally they don't appeal to me for whatever reason, but this one did. You're building out your routes, going to the various cities and, completing your objectives. But the cool thing about this one is there are different colored workers that you can get that do different things for you. And each one of them has a special ability, which enables that worker to be better at this action. And it's how you travel out, and you can hire certain workers at certain locations. So there's a whole planning thing with your strategy. I want to get more orange workers, so I need to do this and go here so that I can make that action stronger. And I really, really enjoy that mechanic. It's a nice You've got a set of buildings and rails at the top of your player board, and when you get rid of a certain number of those, the game ends. It moves at a nice clip. Really enjoy Railroad Revolution.
It is a unique railroad game. I will give you that. Some of them seem a little bit dry and stodgy, but this one gives you so many different options. It's a good one.
Yeah, and there's a lot of paths to go for strategy in this one, because you've got like the Western Union track and other things. If you want to try to branch out, try something different. Really neat game.
That's our number 36.
Here we are halfway through. My number 35 is, I don't even want to call this an oldie but goodie, because I don't think it's been out more than 2 years, right? But it's Abyss.
It's a little longer than that, but yeah.
The beautiful game of underwater politics. It's essentially card driven, but you're trying to collect sets of different factions within the underwater mer people, and in order to unlock keys that unlock to unlock nobles that give you keys that allow you to win the game, essentially. But it's really neat. It's one of these mechanics where, all right, I'm going to, we draw into these piles. Now this pile is getting bigger. Nobody's picked it yet. It's getting bigger. Nobody's picked it yet. Okay, now it's time for me to pick it and, get this wealth of cards.
The influence, yeah.
Yeah. And all of the nobles that you're trying to win the favor of, they have some kind of special power in some way to allow the game to progress. But it's really neat and beautiful artwork. I mean, I think that's what drew everybody to it, really, is seeing this really prominent, fantastic underwater creature's face just plastered right on the front of it. And one of the very few games where they actually went and did 4 variant covers to draw you in. So, Abyss, really, really enjoy it. We played it a ton.
And they do have a couple of expansions already. They have the one with the Kraken, which brings the black pearls into it, because pearls is your currency. And, that art is just gorgeous. And I think that's really what brought art to the forefront of, since that point, people have really started looking at the art and stepping it up. Great game.
We were watching another board game media creator the other day talk about this game. It may have been Z Garcia with the Dice Tower, but if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. I wish I could remember for sure. But he was talking about how he wanted basically a series of games set in this universe, whereas, you take the farmer faction and make a farming Euro game.
Okay,
take the warrior faction and make an area control warrior game or whatever. Yeah. And I got so excited by that bit of, because I saw Abyss Agricola. Agricola Abyss in my head, and I was just so excited about that. So, yeah, I agree. That's
they should do it.
Yeah, whoever makes that, do it. Your name's down here. Do it. My number 35 is from Tasty Minstrel Games. I'm a sucker for worker placement, and this one is a modular worker placement game, and that's Chimera Station. There's a big stack of different rooms because you're building out your space station. And you put the room in play, therefore adding another worker placement space where you or your opponent can go. And your workers are these crazy little toy monster things. And you can buy a new set of arms and put on him. And, it actually clicks into place. And now that worker is capable of doing more. Or you can give him a brain. Or there's various other ones. You can give him leaves so that he can feed himself. Because they're not robots like I thought they were. They're some kind of little monster, so you do have to feed them. But that's a really neat thing. And each guy, I believe, can have 2 upgrades. So you can have some normal workers over here that do what they do. But these 3 that you have over here, you've put some resources in them, and they do extra things as you go about building your space station. It nails worker placement. The modular thing guarantees that the game is wildly different every time because you have different spaces you're going to. And those different workers... at first, when I first saw them on Kickstarter, I thought, man, that is stupid. It's just a toy. And I didn't back it. I think because of that reason, I later picked it up because it just kept drawing me back to it. Those different workers, while it is kind of a gimmick, it's a fun one. And it's brilliant as far as how it works with the game. So I really enjoy Chimera Station.
That is a good one. The really cool thing about that is, you can, mid-game, you can change the direction you want to go, because those little little additions to your creature, you can go to one place and take them off and put something else on if that no longer works for you.
Okay.
And I like that it's not a permanent addition to the creature. You can change directions mid-game, and that made it really cool. Well, for me, this one was a shocker. This one, shocking. It dropped 19 spaces. And that is 51st State Master Set. That is a huge drop on a game that I absolutely love. It's one of Portal Games. It's a card game to where you're building an engine in a post-apocalyptic America, I think it is. And you're trying to gather resources to build up your gang. You can use, be it guns or just resources in general. But you're building this engine to make it a race to like 25 points.
I believe so. Yeah.
And while you're building this engine, everyone around you is building theirs. And so you can't just focus here, though. You've got to pay attention to what they're doing. Because if they get their engine cranking before you do, you need to be able to raise it, like break a piece of their engine, not to put them out of the game, but just to slow them down just a bit so that you can get to that finish line. It's a super, super game, and it just shocked me that it dropped so far down to 35.
Yeah, I feel you. Mine dropped down to my 51st choice right off my list. Yeah, your engine is your settlement that you're building out and then trying to interact with others or interact, I guess, form
alliances,
treaties, or not trading contracts, I guess, for constant resources. But in doing so, you're giving up the potential ability of that location for the trading contract, for the consistent resource. Yeah, 51st State's a great game. Just couldn't make my list.
There's only so many spots.
That's right. That was our number 35s.
Back at number 34, and I've got one of my old favorites, but I have a confession to make. It's slipped 20 spaces this year, and I think it's going to keep slipping because I'm starting to wonder if we've played out Lords of Waterdeep.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I do love this game.
So.
I say this so often. I love worker placement games. I like the theme here. Obviously with it being Dungeons and Dragons, but I bet I have played this game 200 times, and there hasn't been an expansion in a while. Honestly, I'd like to see another game in its vein in that series, maybe, because I haven't played the Drow one that came after, but it's nothing like Lords of Waterdeep. We didn't play it this year, probably because we've played it so many times, and in just that time, it fell 20 spaces. I'm worried it's going to fall completely off the list. Because, man, I don't know that there's anything left to explore here.
Yeah.
And,
it's a great game. Now would be the time for them to do another expansion because Wizards of the Coast is really focusing on the Waterdeep area right now in Dungeons & Dragons, their role-playing game. Yeah, man, it's, this game, if we were going to initiate a Hall of Fame, I think it would be a definite contender for
it.
Oh, it would fall into Gateway, definitely.
It's
a great game for starters.
Don't take what we're saying or that it dropped.
Oh, it's not a negative. I'd play it anytime.
Right? Yeah, this is an all-time favorite of all of ours.
Yep. So that's my number 34, Lords of Waterdeep.
Well, for me, my number 34 is Century Spice Road.
Okay.
And I know there's 3 different ones of them, but of those, I really like this one. I like the theme of it. I like the spice merchants in the desert, that whole theme. The art's very pretty, but basically you're building an engine to exchange one spice for another.
Yeah.
And the whole gameplay is very simple, but it's engaging. You're constantly, figuring out your best move. So for me, my number 34, Century Spice Road, still good for me.
It's a great game. I like the mechanic of transformation, right? Start with this, turn it into this, and then score some points, And this game does that very elegantly. and very beautifully. The one we got experience with is the trade caravans of spice, and I think it's just a beautiful game.
Yeah, I read somewhere or I heard, so I can't say that it's true because it wasn't from the designer himself's mouth, but that he sat down in order to design a soulless cube pusher.
Okay.
Nailed it, but he put a whole bunch of soul in there at the same time. So way overachieved. This is a great little game.
Well done. For me, this one, talking about Hall of Fame contenders, I believe maybe the game that kind of started our board game fascination, and that's Puerto Rico. So number 34 for me is the all-time classic, Puerto Rico. You are building up the plantation that you own on the island of Puerto Rico, and also building buildings into the town of San Juan to have either the production ability to convert all of your crops into the actual goods and then transport those off to the old world for extra victory points, while managing your workforce of little brown discs. So take that as you will, but this game is really fun. I enjoy it. It's another one we've really played a lot, right? But I think it still holds a strong place for me because I would play it anytime anybody requested. I mean, it's, it is really an evergreen title, textbook definition of that.
It is evergreen. This kind of like with Lords of Waterdeep for him. For me, I've gone past it. Yeah. It's not one that I know it's a great game, and if it comes to the table and everyone really wants to play it, but it's not one I'm going to ask to play anymore because there's so many other ones out there that's grabbed my attention.
I dig it the most. So, unless I lost my mind, I believe you may see this one again. So we'll just talk about it then.
Okay. Those are our number 34s. So at 33 for me, I picked Fields of Green. Oh. I really like this game. It's a card game, and you're trying to build up your farm, but you've got to make sure that your water can reach all of your crops, so that you can grow the food that you need in order to feed your animals. It's so complex, and you're building it out, and it's just an amazing little engine builder. And I know that it has a precursor. Was it Among the Stars? Mm-hmm. But the farming is just so peaceful, and it's like you're digging your hands into the earth yourself, and you're creating something out of nothing. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. And so that's my pick, Fields of Green at 33.
And it's got a new expansion that's essentially like you're taking your goods to the county fair type situation, and various things you can enter that looks really, really cool.
Excited.
Thomas Jefferson said, "Those who toil the earth are the chosen people of God." I wanted this game so bad that this is one I actually went to European shipping to get my hands on as soon as possible. I don't know that it was Kickstarter. It may have been, and maybe I just missed it. But when I saw the game, I was like, I have to have this. I had never played Among the Stars. I really hadn't really even looked at it. But when I saw Fields of Green, I was like, this game looks cool. And so doing research, found out that it was from a European company, and that was the only way to get it. So I did. And then a month later, he could have given us some warning. Stephen Bonacore brought it to the States with Stronghold Games. So
I don't think he feels like he needs to tell us.
He doesn't. But would have been nice. But anyway, but we did get it. We played it, and we absolutely loved it. One of the things that surprised me about it was it doesn't, when you take it out of the box, it doesn't look like it's going to have a big footprint, but it really does.
It does.
Okay, because your farm quickly, you're putting down, I'd say, what are they, maybe 3-inch by 3-inch squares, maybe. You're putting those down, and pretty soon your farm gets to be sprawling. So don't think you're going to play this on like a little cafe table. You need some room, but it is a really cool game. My number 33 is one of two wine-producing games that I'm sure are on my list. This one is Viticulture, the Essential Edition. This one is more managing and building the individual vineyard and taking care of that production and management. And I can appreciate that. You play over seasons, and so in certain seasons you can do things that you can't do in other seasons, and vice versa. We've played this one in Vinos, and this one comes in for me at 33, but still a strong contender and a favorite of mine.
I like it because the little buildings, especially, I like it when you can get out the windmill and you know, it's not just a card game on a board. Things kind of pop up for you. It's cool. I like it.
I think I'm going to put this one on the table tomorrow.
Okay.
We'll talk about that one more later, too. My number 33, I don't think I'm going to have to do a whole lot here other than get my popcorn ready and sit back. It's new to my list this year, but it's not new to us because we hadn't played it in a few years. But we did this year, and that reminded me how great this game was. 33 is Grand Austria Hotel. And we had a great little game of this where these two became at odds. And you're running your little hotel, feeding your guests, managing your staff. It's one of those standard deals. Everything works together in such a rewarding way for me. But part of that's my fault. I didn't throw at Chip, who had never played it before, the intro game. I went with the full in where you draft your staff or whatever it is, all that good stuff. So everybody has different situations. And, you know, the fun ensued as she took off. So, if you're interested in what I would call a heavy Euro game about running a hotel
and cafe,
I would check out Grand Austria Hotel. The caveat there is, do not play this game with 4 players. The mechanic of drafting your dice, which are your actions, you pick first, and then the second player picks, and then the third player picks, and then the fourth, and then the 4, 3, 2, 1. So if you're the first player, it is a while before you're going to get to pick again. That is really my only negative for this one. Don't play it at 4 players, but I think 3 or less, Grand Austria Hotel is a great game.
Great game. Yep. Very charming. When you're doing your cafe, the game comes standard with, you know, your regular blocks, you know, for the coffee and the wine and the cake. You can get upgrade packs for this though, and where you can actually get pieces of strudel and pieces of cake. It just brings it out even more.
Yeah, we featured a review of one of those upgrade packs on the channel here, so go check that out.
So that just made it even better. Love that game.
It was not that I did not like the game. I liked the game. What I found was and you know what, I imagine this happens with a lot of really heavy Euros. If you go into them against an opponent who has experience with them, you're already a leg behind.
Yeah.
And this is one of those Euros where you need to make correct decisions every time.
At the right time.
At the right time, no exceptions.
Yeah, there's not a lot of room to mess around and
so
catch back up.
I found myself sitting there playing, and I look at the board and I say, okay, I need to accomplish these goals. Okay, I see a pathway to do that. I'll start accomplishing these goals. And I accomplish those goals. And then I'll look at the score and I go, why is Jolene 60 points ahead of me? What is she doing that I'm not seeing, right? And through our first game, all the totality of our first game, that was the state I was in, was what is she doing? What is she seeing that I'm not seeing? Because I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm supposed to be I'm supposed to be putting people in this hotel. I'm supposed to be catering their needs in my cafe, and I'm over here doing this action selection thing. I'm doing all of that, but it's not turning into the points that I'm seeing the other player having. And at the end, you guys were like, I don't think Chip liked this game at all. Well, I did, but I was in such a state of shock of and confusion, I think is the way to say it, right? Is I was just confused of how, I think I know how I'm playing this game, but it's really, there's either something's happening here. I'm missing something. So this one is not for the faint of heart. And you need to understand, if you're playing with people that already played it, they're probably going to trounce you, right? I am not one who is against the idea of, I'm going to play this Euro game and I'm going to remember that I made 50 points, and next time I'm going to try to make 60 points. Right. Sometimes you just got to be that way. Okay. So I did enjoy it. It's a really great game. You just kind of have to understand, what your level of experience is versus everybody else at the table.
Okay, so to be completely honest with y'all, that was the best score I had ever gotten in that game.
You kind of got the best game she'd ever had of it.
Yeah, that was the best game I ever had.
And it could be karma because I did you wrong in Food Chain Magnate. That's how I'm justifying it. But Grand Austria Hotel is really cool. If you like those heavy Euros,
that chain,
then
what you do here will chain out. So awesome.
That's going to be our number 33.
My number 32 is going to be one from Academy Games that we have not mentioned this one, but it's 1775 Rebellion. I am a huge fan of the Revolutionary War. This is the first Academy game that we ever had experience with, and I can really appreciate it. Now, I've said before I consider myself an amateur war gamer, and really in our group we have one other, World Hit Brandon. He'll play some war games with me, but over the course of, or over the span of 5 players, we really are not big into war games. But this one is a little bit different. It doesn't play like your traditional war games. It plays more like a board game, and so I can get the whole group together to play it. The one downfall of 1775 is it's only really built for 4 players. And so you have to take that. But man, is it really fun. We like to play in teams where the British side, the American side, both have 2 players, and the way that it's divided, so the British side will have your British regulars, and then you have the Patriot defectors, or not Patriots, the people who backed England during the Revolution, the Americans who sided with England. I'm drawing a blank of what they were called. Then on the American side, you have the American Army, the colonial Continental Army, and then you have the colonial militia.
Right. Yep.
So the way we kind of like to sort of arrange it is, as you mix your units together, when it's the British regulars' turn, they can decide, okay, well, I'm going to send 2 of my regular units plus 3 of you hangers on with me. We need to kind of discuss this, Captain, because I might have plans for my army, right? But you almost start to feel like, okay, well, he's the British regular, so technically he outranks me, and I need to kind of become his junior, and I need to accede to his orders, because obviously he's gone to war college and he knows. And then we get smashed. So, but it does. Said it before with 1812. It gives me the feeling like I'm a commander. I'm looking at a table that has little blocks that are my armies, and I'm plotting my strategy. Card based for taking your actions, your movements, and things like that. There's card play. But Academy did such a good job with this style of game. I can really appreciate it.
Yeah, this one hits me in the feels thematically because I'm an American history buff. You say you have trouble getting people to play war games with you. If it's further along in history than this, I'm not interested. Yeah. This and back is what I really, really like, and that's probably why, because there are more. It feels like there are more things based around modern warfare. That just doesn't do it for me, but this game does. It's a fantastic one.
What's really cool, though, is the way they end the game. It's that you have treaties that are going to pop up on the draw, and you have to play it at some point. And once both sides are forced to play their treaty, that ends the game. And that is so cool. It's not like you're trying to, I have to take, Lexington. No, it's, once you're forced to get to that point of treaty because we can't fight anymore. Yeah. That ends it. So you never know when it's going to come, right? Very cool.
Yep. For my number 32, I've got one that came down 3 spaces, so I'd call that pretty stable. We talked about its maybe older brother earlier, 51st States. This is Imperial Settlers. Yeah. It's very similar to the same game which they talked about, so I won't go into that too much. It's a little card-driven engine-building game. But they're both incredibly deep. And I wanted to say something to 51st State players who have had no interest in Imperial Settlers because of maybe the cutesy art or whatever. I used to be one of those, and I'll tell you why you should give this one a shot. Each one of the factions in Imperial Settlers has their own deck. Mm-hmm. So as you're playing along, you're pulling cards from a general area like you would in 51st State, but you're also pulling cards out of your own deck, which gives you a different flavor in a much more substantial way than it does with just the different little abilities that they have in 51st State. And for me, if this game was a direct clone with a different theme, I'd never play it again. But that element made me really, really enjoy, because my Romans were really, really unique and really behaved in the way that maybe your Roman army would. And every faction is built differently through that deck. I really, really enjoy that asymmetry. So that's why Imperial Settlers is my number 32.
I was hardcore for
you were
51st
against it.
State. I didn't even want to play it. I wasn't really interested, but I did because, majority rules. And I was surprised how much I really enjoyed it. And it was because of that deck element.
Yep.
But another thing is, I think they've gotten 51st State to the point to where it's almost perfect.
Yeah.
But with Imperial Settlers, let's bring in the Amazons.
Yeah.
Let's, they can bring in so much more and put more expansions into it. Mm-hmm. And so I really love games where I can put my heart and soul into a faction, and then that's me, and they really do that there.
Yeah. It is a great game, and I bet you I have more to talk about later.
Well, for mine, it's a game that has already been mentioned in this particular thing, and that's Abyss.
Okay.
I love Abyss. There's not much more we can say about it. Beautiful art, interesting gameplay. I absolutely love it, and we need to get them to build that game to where they branch out and do the different factions. Awesome game. Give it a shot. Abyss.
Those are our number 32s.
And we'll finish off this segment of 10 with number 31. This is one that's new to the list for me because it was new to me, but it's an older game. It's considered one of the first successful Kickstarter board games back in the day, and that's Alien Frontiers.
There you go.
I've got the newer printing of it, which kind of has, more modern looking art. I kind of liked the retro look, but it's the one I could get my hands on, and we played it just a few months ago. And man, I really enjoyed it. I think Kingsburg was my first experience with a dice placement game, and I really liked that. And this one, kind of ups the ante on that, and really kind of pioneered that. Your goal is to colonize, the planet with however many colonies that you need to put out in order to be able to win. And in the process, you go around and you collect your goods to get your resources and make your ships so that you can have more dice to place. Just a nice little worker placement game with a really cool theme. So that's why it appealed to me. Alien Frontiers.
Yeah, I really like that one too, especially since, they had like alien tech, which you can go and get that, and that can kind of help you with manipulating the dice or just a really neat power or ray gun or whatever. There was so many different pieces. It wasn't just the standard, build your colony and set it here. You had to work for it, and that was really cool.
So if I remember correctly, this game has a couple of different ways to play. You can build up and build up and build up and become like the behemoth, or you can get in and kind of race for the galaxy. This thing, race to get those settlements out before anybody else can get anything together and start getting points, and then just try to be the one with the most points right at the end. Make the quick win. I really enjoyed playing this one. I think I like this one better than. I find a lot of similarities between this game and the Troubles game. Troubles.
Yep.
I think I like this one better than the Troubles game.
Well, for my number 31, this is one that most everyone in our group enjoys, and that is Coldwater Crown.
Oh, yeah.
Fishing game. This is really fun. It's worker placement, but it does it in a very unique way. You put down your token and you do that action, and then you pick another token up and you do that action, and then it goes around, and you're trying to catch these fish by clearing off bait, depending if you're at the sea or the river or the lake. So and you're getting, trophies based on, species or weight or whatever. And it was just really cool. It was very unique, very different. And I really enjoyed it. And I suggest anyone give it a try. That's Coldwater Crown.
More to come.
It'll be more to come for me too. I did that. Since I'm not talking about it in this video, I want to take every opportunity I can. I love the expansion that we've gotten, the sea, and it integrates just flawlessly into this game. Yeah. You have those games sometimes that, okay, the expansion is fun, but really and truly, it adds just a little bit too much to the game.
Or
sometimes.
changes it.
Or it does it in a clunky way.
It doesn't, yeah. We've all had those experiences. This one, seamless integration, really neat. Please, guys, please. We're in the South. Give me a southern fishing expansion to this game. I need catfish.
Gators.
I need perch. I need gators. Come on now. I want to shoot it, Elizabeth. So give us that. Yeah, Coldwater Crown is really awesome. I'll finish it up. My 31 is a legacy game for us, not legacy in those kind of terms, but legacy for our group. It's History of the World. This is a game. This is a board game we've been playing for decades. Starting with the old version, and it's really about it's more than just a game for us. It's a history, right? It allows us to come together in fellowship and have these experiences, and that I talk a lot about. That is that some of the appeal to these board games is not so much just the gameplay or the art, but the shared experiences you have with friends. And so this title, History of the World, I can say that I've been able to experience and have fellowship with a group of 4 other players for decades. Like I said, I mean, we're all getting older, but it's years and years and years. And I hope to have more years to come. This year, we discovered the newest version that's been released. And we've had mixed opinions, mixed feelings about the certain changes that were made, but the game itself is still really fun. We still get a lot out of it, and it's become our New Year's tradition. We get together, have New Year's lunch, and we play History of the World together. And Johnny this year has actually built us a trophy to carry on. If you guys follow us on Twitter, you can see some photos of this year's game. Where he has become the 2-time champion.
2 times.
Since we've been counting. So,
right.
But History of the World, I really can't say, I haven't even talked about gameplay. Essentially, it's Risk on steroids, right? Yeah. So you're trying to take over the world one epoch at a time. But where it is not, unlike Risk, you're trying to dominate the world with your one civilization. In this one, you are given a civilization for one period of time, you spread out, score points, and then that civilization falls into decline. And the next epoch or the next round, you may get an entirely different civilization all the way across the other side of the world in which you have to expand and score points for. So that's a really neat take.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is.
And it doesn't have that player elimination that other games like Risk can have, where an hour into it, somebody gets knocked off, and now for the next 3 hours, they're sitting around going, "Oh, I got nothing to do," So really like the game.
And the value on the points changes throughout the epochs as well. So you have the North America. That doesn't really come into play until the final epochs. So that's, you can go ahead and expand there, but you're not going to get points there. So. Right. It's really cool the way that epoch system works, because, 1 minute I could be the Huns, but the next the Chinese, so it's really cool because you have to completely stop and change your strategy to see how can I make this work now. Very cool.
I agree. That's going to wrap up this section of Roll to Hit Gaming's 50 Favorite Games 2019 edition. If this is your first video you've seen in the series, go check out numbers 50 through 41. This was 40 through 31. Come back soon for the next 10 for Roll to Hit Gaming. I'm Lucas.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Chip. Follow us on Twitter at Roll to Hit Gaming.